Don't think it's going to make you want to switch teams. Huck, tooey, huck.
All right, Andrew, roll some zesty Greg. I gotta recover after that cringe. Like, what is up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Today's ASMR sip is some Calypso, real cane sugar, housed in glass, no microplastics. ASMR spritz, intelligent neon. Hear your spritz noises. Like the video and drop a zesty comment about Russo. And also go to my channel and check out my community tab if you want to implode your eyes. But we are talking about, does Tren make you gay? The homosexuality around Tren, the neurodivergence around Tren, and the stigma, does Tren make you gay? I saw Greg Doucette made a video called Tren Makes You Gay, and I'm going to react to it with science because I think this is incredibly important for harm reduction of sexual identity crises caused by steroids in the fitness industry. And if we are ignoring the actual brain chemistry modulations going on, why this could occur, why you would watch certain porn on steroids and not be into it off steroids, if you were using steroids and had a different attraction towards things, that could be simply influenced by you modulating all these biomarkers and having the education of, hey, my neurochemistry, sexual orientation could change using said compound. At least you know what's going on if that occurs, and have the education that, yeah, these compounds can rewire your brain. It can do different biomarker setups on the estrogen androgen receptors, as well as we're going to get into the progesterone receptor in this video, which can result in different neurochemistry setups, which could push you into a different orientation that you would never have been in if you didn't mod your biomarkers, right? So please subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get started. Tren makes you gay.
Ain't wrong. Something's wrong.
Side effects that people might not know about.
Significant changes in sexual orientation.
I don't buy it. I certainly don't think it's going to make you want to switch teams. Huck, tooey, huck.
All right, Andrew, roll some zesty Greg. I gotta recover after that cringe. Like,
significant changes in sexual.
So just filling everyone in, we have the top biohacker, More Plates, More Dates, discussing with one of the top natural fitness influencers, Will Tennyson. So all the natural fitness influencers that get the big clout moves, or, you know, YouTube gives them an audience. They're not shadow banned like me. They're literally going in the steroid section of YouTube and just planting their videos and letting them blossom. So at least he got Derek in on this plug, but Will is wondering the side effects of steroids, and Derek is going into the nuances of the modulations of sexual orientation that go on in bodybuilding from the extreme drug abuse. And we're going to have Greg, I guess, play jester against the actual, in my opinion, finite science, which I'm about to get into.
Orientation.
I'm going to disagree with Derek. I know he's an expert on steroids, but I don't think that if you use Tren, that suddenly you're going to be the Tren couples. We're the Tren hookups. We get together, we shoot each other in the ass with some Tren, and we end up kissing, making out.
Andrew, it sounds like he's just like confessing a kink. You know, like he's like thought this through. The cadence switched when he delivered these bars. I don't know. Like, look at the screen, the frame I paused on.
Having sexy time. I don't buy it. What I think is this. People do what they want. They are who they are. If they take something, perhaps it's Tren, and it makes them want to be with someone, I think they want it to be them in the first place.
Again, I'm going to disagree completely. I think there are tons of phytoestrogens, hormone blockers that in turn can modulate sexual orientation over time. I also think that adding in a boatload of steroids that activate the progesterone receptor while being an antagonist to the dopamine receptor would result in a different neurochemistry that could push someone over the edge and cause a sexual identity crisis, therefore moving their entire life path away from procreation. But who am I? I'm dumbass deranged Russo over here.
I don't think it makes you suddenly want to do something that you didn't want to do. Tren could perhaps get you more.
So when I'm on Tren, my porn categories, Andrew, go back to like, when I was getting through that addiction in like middle school. I had to see everything under the sun. I saw it all back then in middle school. And when I add the Tren in, I'm back in these categories that I would never exist in. And the only thing I did was throw in the Tren, which is stimulating my progesterone receptors and fucking with my dopamine receptors, which is pushing my neurochemistry in a different way, which is requiring me more excitotoxicity stimulation to get my nut.
More aggressive, give you more anxiety, but I certainly don't think it's going to make you want to switch teams. Huck, Tui. Huck.
Oh. Andrew, how many times do you think he did that take? Like the grip is perfect. It's a 9-incher, the way he's got the grip set up, and he just likes hearing this chick just spit in this like meme bar. Like, again, I'm all for clicks and everything. I can't even stutter. Like, the cringe is like very unbearable for me, but we're gonna push through.
They will have insatiable libidos, which is a pretty typical.
His eyes are like big as shit. Like, bro, I can go gay from steroids. You can be switched orientations with many different hormone disruptors, blockers, lifestyle changes. When Greg says you're going to be here, you're going to be, like, you can tailor around that. Do I believe certain people are born homosexual? Absolutely. But I say if you're on the edge, then modifying your biomarkers, which impacts your neurochemistry based on these ratios that I'm about to get into the science. How can you say Derek is wrong? How can you be like, oh, I don't think so? Well, why do you think Derek is coming up with these conclusions? I feel like sexual identity crises are pretty critical in an early person's life, whether it's for good or for bad. It's a big ass motherfucking giant fork in the road sometimes. And if you're modulating biomarkers and you have no idea how significant the impact is of fucking up all these feedback loops, having prolactin too high, having dopamine antagonism, all this shit, like, that could be the reason. When I go off Tren, I'm all of a sudden not watching this stuff and I'm going back to my normal porn like, yeah, this is enough.
Outcome, but often this leads to a diversion in sexual appetite through increasing escalation of like intense and extreme pornography.
I mean, maybe. I don't think Will's buying this. I don't feel it. I, in fact, use Tren. I have not experimented with any homosexual activity. I would tell you if I did. I don't have any problem.
The dancing. Zesty.
With it, but it didn't entice me in the slightest to switch teams. Perhaps it wanted me to have more sexy time than last time with multiple females, but it certainly didn't want me to switch teams. Huck toy. Huck.
Would you ever consider taking steroids? No. I mean, I've thought about it.
All right. So Greg is, poking fun at Derek for bringing up something, in my opinion, that's extremely critical to anyone enhanced in the fitness industry. Male, female, I see the sexual characteristics go nuts both sides when synthetic androgens get involved. And for him to just disregard the actual science is always interesting. And yes, Derek is smart, but I disagree because it didn't happen to me, is one of those things where it's like, are we too lazy to dig into the nuances of why Derek is saying that? Or are we just like, all right, I'm just gonna do this for clout and just pitch back into that because that's a shock value title? I don't know, you tell me. But we're going to be going into Trenbolone and how this would go into theoretically modulating sexual orientation to some way, to at least where, I mean, if you're on a big dose of Tren, like 400, 300 ACE, and your porn viewing doesn't change, happens every time with me. I have no shame saying that I like go from watching normal corn to gangbang corn, and I'm like, why the fuck am I watching this shit? Then I get off the Tren and I'm like, what? That post-nut clarity hits and I'm like, I'm in this rabbit hole of like when I was in middle school and porn was new to me and the only thing I added in was 300 ACE a week. Imagine if you had no education on that and then you're just following random psycho advice as a young teenager and you have have no idea all the feedback loops you're fucking up because you're not doing your blood work, fixing anything. You know, you just go on TikTok, Tren is good, Tren is great. All right, I'm gonna shove this shit in my ass and get going with the gains and the clout train. And the next thing you know, your brain is all fucked up. You have no idea what's going on. You didn't look into the prolactin issues. You did not look into how the dopamine system works on Tren and how it could move your mind to a point where you could have a sexual orientation crisis. That's not a very fun thing to go through. So the main key things that Tren is going to impact is it binds with the progesterone receptor, increasing prolactin, which is sexual desire. It's an antagonist of the dopamine receptors, causing an even bigger feedback loop for the prolactin to raise. It also impacts the E2 level, which is crazily messing with the prolactin pathway as well, while being 500 androgenic, passing through the blood-brain barrier. The most significantly toxic steroid that is touted around on the internet is really fucking with the progesterone receptor. We are going to go to some NCBI studies to evaluate prolactin's impact. You're not hearing it from little lab rat Russo. These are actual scientists. The etiology of male homosexuality. This hypothesis agrees. The suggestion that the two phenomenon of childhood behavior and adult sexuality are induced by separate events rather than being two events in a single chain. However, it differs, including the postnatal period as being a crucial part in the development of adult sexuality. Male homosexuality is portrayed as a biological variation of human sexuality, and the hormonal changes which may produce it are described. It is postulated that sexual preference is dictated by testosterone, interfering with the brain chemistry perpetually, but certainly continuing during the critical postnatal period. It is proposed that the reduction in testosterone action results in a reduced proliferation of the hypothalamic nuclei, which play a vital role in psychosexual orientation. This causes a reduction in testosterone, is the prolongation of hyperprolactinemia during the postnatal period. Oh, hyperprolactinemia. You mean what I'm fucking talking about? Tren binding with the progesterone receptor, Greg? I don't know, it didn't happen to me. Like, what are you doing? This information, this education could help a young biohacker navigate out of this. Look at the prolactin level. See how prolactin level personally impacts them. See how serotonin personally impacts them. See how estrogen personally impacts them. See how the androgen level personally impacts them with their sexual orientation. Knowing the differences. Personally, I like to sit my estrogen higher with my bipolar. Some people need to sit their estrogen way lower, but I personally enjoy the serotonergic benefits the way I'm wired. Everyone's wired differently. Everyone has different epigenetics. And like I said, I do believe people are born homosexual, but I do believe you could move your biomarkers around to where you could have a sexual orientation crisis, have no idea what's going on. And if you had this education, you would at least be able to pull blood work and see, oh, well, I ran Tren 3 months ago and the prolactin loop never fixed, and I've just been suffering this hyperprolactinemia that is right in this etiology of male homosexuality. Let's go to another one, buddy. The interrelationship between genes, microprolactinemia, and male homosexuality. This hypothesis clearly proposes the true and previously undiscovered causes of male homosexuality or bisexuality, and in most cases, the predictability and infancy of the development of this sexuality in adulthood. It's based on compelling new evidence which has accumulated over many years. The fetal and neonatal periods are the utmost importance in human development because they encompass critical periods that must be adhered to for normal development. Biological variations may occur during these times without implying the process of disease. This paper takes into account pediatric hormone and other evidence base which has accumulated over 2 decades concerning the causation of homosexuality or bisexuality. It includes indirect genetic influence, which has now been shown to be present. It also includes the implications of male breast development in regard to sexuality. It asserts that the major cause of male homosexuality is due to the failure of masculization of the male brain due to temporary but critical prolactin secretion from microprolactinemia presented in their pituitary glands. Genes appear to be involved in the production of these tumors and sometimes in their demise. The assessment of their number of any role of infancy has been not correctly addressed. Secondly, there is possible compulsive evidence concerning increased male infant breast tissue development and the true nature of witch's milk and how it is produced, and the profound implications of its presence in slowly castrating males, which is that formula. What am I getting at? Certain people are born gay, 100% believe that. I think people are going to do what they do in quotation marks, as Greg said. However, I do think adding in Trenbolone modulates your biomarkers via the androgen receptor, progesterone receptor, I voice crack for some reason, and the estrogen receptor, which then is the direct variables for your brain neurochemistry, right? So when you add in Trenbolone and fuck with the prolactin, increase estrogen, and have dopamine antagonism, which is feeding the prolactin more, this is pushing you towards this data of swinging your sexual orientation, which could cause a sexual identity crisis. This is all Derek wanted to showcase, because when you're a young male trying to get to a competitive stage weight, willing to do anything, and you have some derp coach putting you on all this shit, not monitoring you, and you're doing it yourself, not monitoring yourself, and you have this prolactin loop that is fucked up, it's really hard to fix, right? You got Caber, Prami, P5P, you're choking the estrogen out, you're getting everything back on track after Trenbolone. If you don't spend all the money on those drugs, you know, it could be perpetually fucked up, which slowly over time could change your sexual orientation, and or you could have a crisis that never would have happened if you had not added in the most infamous exogenous androgen that causes so many issues. And I do believe Tren makes you gay, Greg. And here's the science linked below. I will see you guys in my next video.